Joe Dana tells us why Wassenaar ended up in a position where he could have committed more violence. Joe?
After Ricky Wassenaar was handed 6 life sentences for holding 2 prison guards hostage, he was sent to Michigan. Prison records show he ended up back in Arizona and eventually gained more freedoms behind bars. Was it a warning ignored?
And I said, look, and if I were you, I wouldn't put him in a cell with anybody.
Donna Ham leads a prison reform nonprofit and says back in November, an infamous prisoner personally called her to say he had just killed his cellmate and would do it again.
In 41 years, this is the most unusual call I've ever gotten. Nobody's ever called to confess.
Ricky Wassenaar's 81-year-old cellmate had just died. The Department of Corrections told Ham they investigated the death and concluded it was by natural causes. Ham said Wassenaar insisted to her he did it.
And I said, look, even if you don't believe he killed this man, I think you need to understand that this man is hell-bent on taking credit for killing a cellmate. And if I were you, I wouldn't put him in a cell with anybody.
The prison had reason to be wary of Wassenaar.
Overpowered a correctional officer.
The images are hard to forget. Back in 2004, Wassenaar took over a Buckeye prison tower with fellow inmate Stephen Coy. They held 2 guards hostage, beating them during what one hostage called 15 days of hell. At times, Wassenaar and his accomplice took turns walking the rooftop.
And this remains a delicate and dangerous situation.
After surrendering, Wassenaar got 16 life sentences. A correction officers union leader tells 12 News Wassenaar's surrender conditions included his wishes to remain out of state behind bars and not to be with another cellmate. Ham says Wassenaar made that clear to her as well.
He's not going to spend time in a cell with another living human being.
The Department of Corrections says Wassenaar has been back in Arizona since 2018. The prison lifted Wassenaar's maximum security status. Then on Friday, the DOC says Wassenaar allegedly killed 3 prisoners, 1 behind bars for first-degree murder, the other 2 for child sex crime convictions. The Department of Corrections is telling us that they have no reason to believe that Wassenaar had any involvement in the death of his cellmate in November, that his cellmate had several underlying health conditions. The DOC also saying Wassenaar's custody level was reduced from maximum even before November because he had been behaviorally compliant over years. That's different than what we had seen in court records. And they say Wassenaar was informed and agreed that he would receive a cellmate.
Joe, you just talked about his behavior behind bars, the prison revolt that he led, which included raping at least 1 guard, and then the death of his cellmate, who he says he killed. And why would you even think about, whether you believe it or not, putting him back in with more people?
That's what the Correctional Officers Union head is saying publicly, along with a few others, as you saw there. He also alleges that one of the 3 killed on Friday was Wassenaar's cellmate, which would add to this concern, obviously, that had been brought up already previously about his other cellmate. But we're still waiting to confirm that allegation by the union leader as we gather more information on this just very, very disturbing case.
All right, Joe, thanks.